So we can go to the second slide. A bit, somebody is helping us to move the slides.
Yes, please. Derek?
Okay. Okay. I wanted to begin from an angle that obviously regulations come in because of certain unfair methods of competition that come in, or defective business practices. And you find that for our Ugandans, people have failed, which finally affect their businesses. One I encountered a business where somebody was picking of, he's selling it, a businessman in the trading center, but as he comes to sell ghee, he picks sugar which was already weighed in 2 kilograms in 1.5. After 2 months, the man selling sugar started complaining that, you see, you are the person you are giving me little ghee. When he came the next time, he told him, no, me, I don't have a weighing scale in my home. I just pick your kilograms here. What half of sugar, I weigh half of ghee, what is a kilo, I weigh like that. Then only to realize that this other person was the one who was making a mistake. Is the shopkeeper who was weighing a little, and yet for him he had a weighing scale. So those things happen, and we are doing many things around our businesses, which at times where government need to come in and say, yes, can we have some level of trade order in it? When I looked at the issue of business for this morning, I wanted to put the issue of business success to what the members on this call their goals and objectives. Because whenever you begin a business, you need to be thinking about, what is my goal? What's my objective for having it? Is it for just being there as a pride because I should have a business, or not? And so that's why you will see people claiming to be successful in different ways, because the objective for which they put up those businesses is different from one person to another. However, I want to take quick note that the government is having a lot of actions. In fact, for good or successful businesses, we need less government and more government into our operations of the businesses. In other words, we are saying, can government set our environment in which we operate? Then for us, we do the operations as business people to be able to be successful. So that's the direction I would want us to begin from. And so whatever other things are coming up, is that government is only setting for you the environment in regulations, in acts, in policies, and then the people, the traders who are practitioners, should find a way of coming out with the best of how to use these laws and regulations. Next slide, sir. And I want to also, as I go to that next slide, I would want to say, please move the slide.
Derek? Okay.
Okay. I'm saying one of the areas where government is regulating is in about our formation and institutional development. One, government is trying to ease processes of registration, which should facilitate formalization. And I'm saying the institution that exists or starts business must follow the regulations around business type and in which it is, how it has formed, and it should not think of remaining informal when it has gone formal. You'll find that you are a business and you have decided to register with URSB, and at the end of the day, you are not following the conditions around that registration. If you have decided to come together as a cooperative, then you go and be able to operate under the cooperative laws. And Derek, you can go to the next slide. Yes. Is Derek moving? Okay. For the issues I will talk about here, the regulations around that formalization. When you register a company, you're required to file returns, either to URSB, to URA, and other compliance requirements. You need to fulfill them. For example, as of now, we have the requirement for beneficial ownership forms to be filled. This came up at some point when the country was trying to put in strategies for money laundering. But a number of institutions have failed to file, even with the various reminders by the registrar of companies. Then, those who are cooperatives must ensure that they file returns, they conduct the annual general meetings, and give accountability to their members. Now, and the other bit that is coming with these regulations is that the compliance requirements are being eased to be online. For example, the issues to do with URSB now are beginning to be online, and you need to comply in that line. Then the other regulations in terms of business financing. Derek, we can go to that slide on financing. Derek?
Yeah.
Show the one on financing. Yes, now the issue to do with financing is coming via various laws. For example, the most recent is about the Tier 4 Microfinance Institutions and Lenders Act. And this is to regulate the various, I don't know, money lending. And some may not know that there is a requirement to go to this, comply to this act. And so we need to adhere to it, because some people are continuing to lend money in their pockets without following these regulations. And at the end of the day, when the people default, they fail to come up. The other issue I wanted to point out to the members this morning was about the Security Interest in Movable Property Act that was passed in 2019. And this is to help provide the use of movable property as security for both individuals and corporations, and to provide priority and registration and enforcement of security created. And in that, those who are practitioners might have realized that even in the laws, in the courts of law, this has helped a bit to solve some of the problems that was coming in through the ways of solving defaults and enforcing recovery of loans. And in that line, while government is putting in the laws, it also puts in the other programs that is coming up that should be able to enable businesses to access financing. However, today you will note that in terms of regulation to financial access, Uganda is a bit liberalized, and it's enabling you to access any money as long as it's not a list money from anywhere. And so you can even mobilize money among yourselves to be able to leverage from the numbers. So Derek, we can go to the next slide. Okay. We are having other regulations where, you know, when you are doing trade, there are things people think that government is coming to be more in their business than themselves. There are laws that has put in place in terms of for the employees. You know, for business success, the human resource component is also very important. And the only people who have had limitations in this country are those who are foreign companies. They are the ones that have put conditions for who they should employ at a certain point, but it's also not very so stringent, but it's for purposes of enabling the local people to be able to be employed and also get skills from the people that are coming in. However, I would quickly add for the entrepreneurs on this call that when we have that liberty, let's do our businesses to be able to attract and retain the best. For example, when the Accountants Act says nobody will practice accounting except if he's a member of ISPAO, and for us, we pitch our relatives who have finished senior 3, who have finished senior 4 to handle our books of accounts. Then one, we shall have gone against the other regulations, but we shall also not be helping our businesses to grow in the way they should be. Somebody should be able to add value, even if it's your relative. The person must be able to add value onto the process. Derek, can we proceed to the next one?
We seem to have lost Derek. Okay, he's back.
Okay.
Okay, he's now back.
In that case.
As Derek, yeah, he's back.
Okay.
Derek, please share screen.
I was saying I wanted to look, when I'm looking at the other business that government has passed it in line with the procurement. It has put in place, government has put in place procurement regulations. They affect the way we do our businesses. And especially for those who would want to access government projects, the government consultancy, other government services, you need to appraise yourself of the provisions in the PPDA Act. For example, the reservation schemes that have been put in that law to support the local enterprises. And you realize when you do open bidding, there is a lot of competition from other institutions or other companies that may not be Uganda. But now, because of the reservation schemes, the local companies can be able to access. The other thing that came in, I don't know whether the members on the call have heard us talk about the issue of consortiums in certain sectors. For example, people who are in road construction, you find that if you told one company to have everything that is required to be able to do work in road construction, to not be possible. So we're advising people to do consortiums such that they can leverage on the resources they have to succeed in the bidding. To reduce on the competition, they obviously embedded in these laws the issues of administrative reviews. And so the issue of unfairness gets on reduced. Maybe in that line, I would also ask the entrepreneurs on the call here to bore a bit of the procedures. I know government seem to have a lot of procedures, but the implementation, you can pick out a few of the things that would help your institution to be able to grow. The other, in terms of trade regulation, I want to bring out the issue to do with the competition laws and trade licensing. Obviously, the Competition Act has been passed. A number of you might be seeing that we have a lot of trade order issues where we have traders who are, one is a manufacturer, the other one is a retail trader, and they all have outlets in the same place. And we are saying in this law, which we are working on the regulations to put it into action, is to help us reduce on the unfair business practices that we are seeing on the market. But I would want to advise members on the call, the trade order issue is how we make our decisions. You'll find somebody wants to put a certain business which is still having small capital on Kampala Road. And Kampala Road is gauged as a high, is classified as grade 1, grade A. And now when they're asking for the license there, the person would want to pay like the one who is in Chikoni, which is not classified the same as there. And this is also to help us for businesses not to sprout where they shouldn't be working from. So we have I know the competition law has just been passed and many people haven't known the details. The regulations, we are just working on them, but we think that when we finalize with these regulations, we should be able to help some of these competitive and fair practices that business people are facing in the country. We have had regulations to do with the cross-border trade. You know, this country is looking at improving exports and reducing on the imports. It doesn't mean that we want to stifle the person who is doing business from abroad, but we think we should be able to work on our supply constraints to enable the local people to trade with other things. That's how we have tried to simplify the trade regime. What we call simplified trade regime are those procedures that we have tried to simplify that enable, reduce the cost of doing business across the border, the time of crossing reduces. If there are women crossing, how do we facilitate them cross? How do we put in place non-tariff barrier control measures? We have also tried to construct the trade infrastructure. For example, I don't know whether there are any of us on the call here who are doing exports in colds or in vegetables or cultural things across the Pondwe DRC border, where we have a cold chain there, where somebody could keep his things before they are taken to the next to cross the border. And so I would want to request the traders and the entrepreneurs on this call to interest themselves in how the export trade is. And we are trying, government is putting in all of these procedures and the guidelines to regulate the way people are doing in a form of facilitating them across the other areas. In terms of in relation to the quality and standards, you know, as I talk about export, as I talk about import substitution, the way of local procedures and products that we put on the market should be according to the standards, and there should be certification. I know, as I say this, we are looking at how we are affecting the success of our businesses. For example, anything today, which is food, and putting it on the market, that should have standards, should be certified. And I know somebody would say, as a small entrepreneur, I'm just beginning, why should I have this? But certification gives us an assurance what we are having is a good product suitable for the
We seem to have lost Johnson. Is it for him to come back? Oh, he's back. Johnson, are you there?
Have I said a point? I was seeing something happening on my computer.
Yeah, I'd lost you for a little bit.
Okay. Are we still to be? Okay. As the entrepreneurs, that as we go into value addition, we need to look at what do we introduce on the market. You find somebody is introducing coffee. Okay, let me take an example of flour. Somebody wants to introduce flour, which is mixed with soya bean, again mixed with milk, and a plain, and is coming on the market and is a starting person. When he gets to the Standards Bureau, he finds that they are telling him, let's work on this process, let's work on this process. And then he says, no, this.
Is it my network or Johnson's network? Can people hear me?
I think Johnson dropped off.
I dropped off again. Okay, I think when he resumes, thank you everybody for joining. As you listen to the Johnson, and you have any questions, you can put them in chat. So see, Ambrose has mentioned what he does. He works on machine lubes and services, supplying specialty food grade lubricants for beverage manufacturing lines. He's also in commercial printing. Ambrose, please add your contacts just in case somebody is interested in this, reaching out to you. Okay, Johnson is back. Johnson, we had lost you. Hello. Johnson, can you hear us? Can't hear you at the moment.
Are you now hearing me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. Fine. Now, if you can now hear me, I can conclude with that issue of the standards I was talking about, is that I would want to advise the entrepreneurs not to go to the market to introduce many products at the same time, and two, also to consult rightly when you are introducing products on the market, such that by the time you are going through certification, you have already had the preparedness. Now, the other one, there are other issues, the policies that we are having. I don't know whether we have people who are dealing in grain. There are various provisions there. We have the MSME policy, we have industrial licensing, the issue of buy Uganda, build Uganda. But as I have just said, that if we don't handle the supply constraint and fulfill the standards here, we may have a little challenge. We have had also the trade agreements that affect the quality, the success of our businesses in the country. The agreements we have had with other countries at the East African level, at COMESA, at ACUFTA, and even at the world level, the agreements we have had with the other countries in bilateral level, they affect the trade success that we do in the various businesses. For example, when we have people who want to export to Europe, there are protocols that we have agreed with those people on how to do trade. So if you have to get there, there are procedures you must be able to follow. If you are going to ACUFTA, to the African Continental Free Trade Area, there are conditions that are required to get there. And so we want to request, I know I'm not able to pick all of them and bring them up here, but, and we are continuing to agree with the various countries on each of these items. So I would want to request the people on this call to interest themselves in that line. Now, there is a policy I would want us to share. For example, in these industrial parks, government has passed a policy to ensure that there is provision for space for the local traders or the small traders or small entrepreneurs for this matter. But the people think that it's for big entrepreneurs. The same thing in the free zones areas. But the free zone area has its own conditions that you must be targeting to export. Though some of you are following what is the discussions going on, would realize that we are getting discussions to see how we can work on those that are specifically for the local environment. So ladies and gentlemen, while I have indicated some of these here, not all of them, or not all of the laws and regulations have been put up here. But for this morning, I wanted to highlight these ones that are affecting each one of us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, while I have picked the things I've talked about from the different areas, there are a number of websites that you can be able to get this information. For example, on our ministry website, you can get some of these policies, the acts and the regulations. Then when you go to our website, which is ugandatrades.go.ug, for those who are into export, there are a number of conditions that you can be able to pick from there that affect the trade or that you are involved in. We also, the issue to do with investment authority. People have thought that it's only helping the foreigners. But I would want to tell the people on the call that even at investment authority, if you dealt with them, they can be able to advise you on how you can benefit on of the processes and procedures. In fact, those of us who have been following, you know that there's even now a department that is specifically, other than the one that has been handling SMEs, they have put up one to handle specifically the domestic investors and see how they can work with them to be able to continue investing and benefiting from the government provisions. The other provisions I was talking about, the Registration Services Bureau, they keep issuing circulars on top of the laws that are there. So when you visit their website, you can be able to access more information. Then the the National Bureau of Standards, you need to visit their site also. There are some of the things, information that is available there that you can on your own be able to access and use. Then if you want more information, you can still find how to get it. Then also the Uganda Free Zones Authority website, you can visit it and you are able to get more information on how you can also participate in the free zones areas that are being put up in the country. So, ladies and gentlemen, for now, I want to end by saying that there are many regulations in different areas of the sector of the country that affect the way we do our business. And so that's why for us as a Ministry of Trade, we still interest ourselves on the various decisions that are being taken in the different boardrooms. For example, some decision might be taken in the Ministry of Gender, and it's affecting trade. So we ensure that we need that mainstreaming of some of those issues. The other thing I have not concentrated on here, which is, I think, a day-to-day effect on the success of our businesses, is the issue to do with the tax laws and provisions and guidelines that are coming up every other day. Every regulation that is being put up, every section that is being implemented of the law on taxes is an issue that affects the success of our business. If we don't comply, we find ourselves in against the law that is in place, and then it affects the way we are going to succeed in our businesses. I thank you for listening to me, and call on any clarifications members may want to get. I thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Johnson. That was actually interesting. I did not know about the Competitions Act that had been passed last year. I'm going to read about that one to see what exactly it says. People, please, you're welcome. You can raise your hand in case you have any question, or you can post your question in chat. Any questions or comments? Okay, I see Francis has talked about what she does. Is into agribusiness. Please post your contacts. I'm seeing Richard Kawoya has posted his business cards. Say trade dealers in agricultural produce and more. That is good. That is good. Derek, if you can, well, I don't know. Any questions? There's this, Johnson, there is this thing that has been coming up and disturbing a lot of businesses, even the accounts got got blocked at one point, the beneficial owners form. What is that
Yes.
exactly about?
The beneficial owners form, as I said at the beginning, is that it came in as the country was trying to clean its face in the hands of the anti-money laundering laws. You could have realized there are a number of laws that were changed in the course of last year, 2022, to ensure that people are not doing any money laundering. So in that form, they want to know who is the beneficiary of the resources and decisions that are being taken in our businesses. Now, that form you only fill and indicate you are the owner and there is no more funding from anywhere else. That's what they want to establish. Whether there is anybody away from here who is either bringing in resources or having control of a company that is here. I know that's why I said most people, when it was announced, people didn't bother to do what? To go there. And I know obviously in the start, there was a challenge when they said, whoever is not filing by this date, we shall charge you 500,000. I think that's what had been said at the start. But it is something to ensure people to know who is controlling the various businesses. And I think after that, you have seen that Uganda has been removed from the other list where we had been put. Is that sufficient, Abid?
Yes, that is sufficient. Lydia says she makes organic skin care products out of natural plant oils. There's a question from Joshua Mayanja. What are those reservation schemes that support local enterprises?
Okay.
Maybe also you can take that one.
Yes. Thank you, Joshua, for the question. Now, in the reservation schemes on procurement, government has put in place that a certain percentage of procurement must go to the local entrepreneurs. And some of the projects are not supposed to be advertised internationally when they are not of a certain magnitude of money. And therefore, it should give an opportunity to the local entrepreneurs to be able to bid. The other thing that I don't know, I think I must have talked about it, to help our people to be able to succeed in bidding, especially in the construction sector where they are supposed to use a lot of money, a lot of equipment. There's an allowance to have people work as a consortium, that you are able to come together as a group of people. You agree that for us, we shall be able to bid as say 5, and then they allow you to access a project. But previously, that would rule out the local people who would be small, because if they are telling you to have equipment worth maybe 3 billion shillings, as an individual company, you would not have it. Now that's what is helping in for people to come up and be able to succeed in getting these projects.
Okay. On these reservation schemes, how can people find this information? Well, how do they know that this has been, if my company is interested, how would I know where to get this information that is under a reservation scheme?
Now, one, the members need to access the PPDA Act and regulations that have been put in place. When they read it and know. By the way, there's something else which people I don't know whether they have members have gone to that level. Every year, each of the government institutions publish their procurement plans, and also advertise at the time they advertise. They have already moved from that time of planning, and the entrepreneurs may need to get interested in seeing those government plans, which are available on the PPDA websites. You can know that these people are going to procure this project. In this project, they are going to buy A, B, C, D. Then even when they advertise, people need to get that interested in that information that is available.
Okay.
Yes.
Richard Koya says thank you for the. He has requested for a session through taxation. Richard,
Yes.
we shall organize that one. We usually have about 3 sessions every year on taxation. Especially like now that the budget is going to come in effect, there'll be changes in the tax law.
Today the MPs are meeting to talk about the taxes that they want to either pass or not pass in Parliament.
Oh, okay.
The other thing maybe we need to add very fast, for those who are in value addition, the issue of certification is beginning to change from the general figures, the absolute figure that was being charged to individual to depend on the items, the product somebody is putting out. And that we expected to reduce in the cost of certification.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should be interesting. Sumi, you have your hand up. Please go ahead. Sumi Hamid, please unmute.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm very happy to participate in this, and I'm running a small company called the Hasa Holdings Company Limited. And basically we do vocational skills development and not value addition and all that. My key question here comes because I've heard that Parliament sitting on issues to do with the taxes and all that. Like, I wanted to ask Johnson if, for example, the government is trying to strategize and then see how these small companies can be supported as far as taxes are concerned. Because by the time we are starting businesses, we still have some knowledge gaps and information. So we need to pay tax, and at some point we didn't know where to start from and how to do it. And then again, at the same point, again, you realize that you are being demanded to pay tax, but still again, you have some liabilities to clear. So I wanted to ask, like, if a small company has a liability to clear, does it also like file taxes? In any case, we receive the messages that file your tax by this date, file your tax by this date. You realize you have also like liabilities. I'm not very clear on the question, but I'm quite sure with your technicalities, you've understood what I mean. I appreciate if you can answer.
Yes, thank you, Hamid. Hamid, the issue is when you are making returns, that's why they are asked to be made on those specific days. And so the issue is about the profits that you make are the ones that determine the taxes that you will pay. And so I would want to suggest you need to find zero return. You file it that you have made it such that they don't have an opportunity of estimating for you. Incidentally, the law has given the taxman an authority to estimate what you should pay. Unfortunately, again, when you don't file returns, they will penalize you for not filing. Again, they will penalize you for not paying. And also, the other bit is about records. We may need to find a way of having some level of records in our businesses, such that even when the taxman comes and is saying, yes, you are supposed to pay this tax, you are able to have your right. Maybe one thing I may need to differentiate is that the liability you have does not determine your tax. That liability may be there, which you are paying off, except when it has an allowable Like for instance, if you are paying interest on it, that interest may be reduced on the profits that would determine the final tax, but not the liability itself. Like for instance, if you are paying a loan, the figure for the loan may not be reduced, but the interest you pay on the loan will be able to be reduced. I hope I have thrown some light for you, Mr. Hamid. Okay.
I can also add something.
Yes.
Hamid, usually with the taxation, people end up in problems with URA because there's an assumption of you only file tax returns when you have made a profit. Yet what filing returns is about telling URA how you're doing. So even if you have made a loss, you file your returns and tell them I've made a loss. If you have made a profit, you file and say I've made a profit. Then there's a calculation of how much tax that you pay. And also the tax is usually on your profit, not on your sales. So people assume that if I've made sales of 10 million, I have to pay automatically 3 million to URA. Yet, URA asks you, what is your profit? So like Johnson was saying, you have to record your expenses also. So you may find on the 10 million, if you have good records, you may find about 6 million of that is expenses and your actual profit is 4 million and 30% of that is 1.2. So you'll be paying 1.2 million instead of 3 million if you have good records. Otherwise, like Johnson was saying, URA makes an assumption for you.
Yes.
And there's also something called presumptive tax, where you can apply if you're below a certain threshold. Is it 10 million a year? Or something
Yes,
like that in
right.
sales. You can apply and you just pay a particular figure every year until you can grow and start doing the percentage of profit.
Yes, Abid, I can
Yes.
add another thing there which I have realized some people have got challenges with. There are those who are employing staff and they are deducting pay as you earn, but they fail to remit. Or at times they end up paying these people full. When a URA comes in, it puts these people to pay the full amount. They will ask them to pay that figure that they deducted and they didn't send the other side. And the institution, if it has deducted, will have to meet all the other penalties. Maybe what I can quickly add is also that for these regulations, we may need to find a way of complying from the very start, such that we are not caught up unaware. I appreciate the lack of information at times, but we may need to be interested in the various awareness trainings that happen around the country, maybe by URA and the other institutions, about the regulations and the businesses we are trying to go into. For example, I have seen people, somebody is looking at a product and is saying it is having health claims. When you are telling him about whether you have seen National Drug Authority, he's saying, even UNBS, I have not been there. And yet is having health claims to the product. It's not certified. The NDA has not approved. Then by the next day, when they are doing surveillance and they want to put it off the market, the man will run to the newspapers to begin saying, you people are closing me. I am not aware. But as I said, I appreciate there is lack of information, which we may need to keep helping people to know every other day. Mr. Bid, there is somebody who has put a question there.
Yes, please.
Somebody, Mugume Moses.
Yeah.
You have seen that question.
Yes.
But because the person is talking of little capital and is talking of joining dairy business. Dairy business has various channels along the value chain. Maybe he wants to do bulking of milk, and he might be wanting to do value addition by making yogurt. Because the smaller entry points. Is either packing the milk or making yogurt. Those levels are the starting ones. But I think this one may require how we can have an idea generation with the person to see what is their passion and where are they looking at the main entry point. Because somebody might have gone beyond it, somebody may call it little capital, but when it's beyond just dealing in collecting, bulk collecting of milk. Like you see these people who have coolers in places. The person might be able to go to making of yogurt. That is a different level. So I think those that one can share with him, and then we see what levels that we can be able to have an entry point.
Yes.
So I think now yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we lose your audio a little bit. It's not clear.
No.
Okay. Yes. Sumi has another question. Would you kindly mention a provision for applying to be given a standard amount of tax? I think he's asking about the presumptive tax.
Yeah. I have not picked the real figures of now, but depending on where it is, can you visit the nearest URA office and they give him that requirement, what he needs to be able to get that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go to URA and you mention, you ask, but normally it is if you, in a financial year, your turnover, this is your sales, your gross sales, not your profit, but your sales is between 10 million and 100 million, then you qualify for presumptive tax. And then they calculate the rate for you. But you can go to the URA office and you ask. Also, it would be good if you can reach out to some of the tax. There are some companies that are doing accounting services for SMEs. They can actually guide you on some of these things. Sumi, has your question been answered? Because I'm seeing your hand is still up. There's a question from Joshua. Could you throw more light on SMEs in service industry like training or consultancy? Maybe Joshua, you can unmute and you throw more light on your question. Okay. As we wait for Joshua, Sumi, you can go ahead. You can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you again. I think I am very interested in issues with the taxes. So right now, we're registered for e-freeze, and with that fact, so if we because our business model is that we're working with different non-profit initiatives that place trainees in our centers. So they pay us for service fee. So when we are giving them invoice, we use e-freeze. So by the time we are being paid, so some money has already been chopped from what is actually from our earning. So now that it is chopped, do we need again to file return for that transaction? Because I think that will be double taxing. Because we have been charged up there, then money comes again, we have to file. I don't know how that happens. And who pays? For example, if we're working with some non-profit who have already chopped the money on, I don't know how that is, the technicality. Are they going to pay that money to our team, or what happens?
Okay, thank you, Sumi. There are three, I think about three things I may need to talk about here. One, I know this I had talked about in a brief earlier. One, there is what is called filing returns on a tax. You are showing that for this year, I'm supposed to pay I have earned this is where I'm standing. The second bit is the actual payment of the tax. Now, the IFRS is specifically on that. In situations that you have, that money has already been paid, and you realize, according to the law, while you are filing returns, you shouldn't have paid that VAT, or there is any tax that you have already paid in advance, those credits will have to be taken care of. So the issue of filing, even when you have already paid certain bits, is that you need to get a whole status of what you should have paid in there. Then that's why you have seen these people who buy a product from somebody who is VAT registered, and he's telling you, give me those receipts such that I can be able to recover my VAT. So he would go there and he's able to recover such that you don't have to do some double taxation. So, Bwana Hamid, what you need to recognize are those levels. One, when you are doing IFRS, they will have that money that will have been paid. But when you are doing your returns, you will show, I have paid this amount of money, I should have paid it. That one goes. This one, I shouldn't have paid it. Then you recover the tax that should have been, which you shouldn't have paid. So that's where is that difference. But in a situation that I have said many things on the same and you have not differentiated, the issue is one, you are supposed to file returns as a general picture of every tax to pay according to the periods required. Two, after that, it will determine how much you are supposed to pay. Either you have already paid it in advance or you haven't paid it, and therefore you need to pay. Those are the situations that would arise as you file those returns. Thank you.
I think so. A session in taxation. Yeah, I can see what for meant because a lot of questions about taxation. Joshua, you can go ahead. You should now be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Abid. And thank you for the presentation, Mr. Johnson. You talked about that there are specific departments for local investors, or they are something like that, creating, or they created a department for local investors. So I just wanted to know whether also services can be supported, the consultancy services or training.
Okay. Thank you, Joshua. As we put these various interventions in different places, as I said, we want to ensure that the local content is catered for. And so if there are interventions, say somebody in the consultancy, in the services somewhere, we can still be able to support them, and even the different institutions that for government, and they are thinking, because that you could be aware that we even have a policy on trade in services now, which you can still be able to access on our ministry website. Or if you can't, then if you walk through the ministry, you can still be able to get that information. We are looking at seeing how we even develop the trade in services, even locally in the country. Thank you. Maybe
Joshua,
for Joshua,
answer your question?
Yes, for Joshua, what I can add on is that we are trying to come up with the delivery standards for business development services. Our people have, okay, I know someone the other day was telling me it's creating jobs, but we have realized everybody comes from business school or everywhere and begins to offer business development services. And so we are saying, can we find a way of determining the standards of delivery of these business development services for our people in the country. Otherwise, some people have only been told about how to recover, to access and pay loans, and they think that is business development services. We have even had big institutions which have ended up borrowing a lot of money somewhere. Somebody thinks he has given them a business development service on how to use the money, whom the money has not gone for the growth of the business. So we are trying to see how we can have the business development service delivery standards so that we guide people on how they deliver. If you are a consultant in business development services, how do you do it? What are you following? I know even in the agriculture, there are those who are doing, they are coming up with a way of how we can regulate and guide the BDS for agricultural services. Yeah, that's what I thought I would add that.
Okay, thank you, Johnson. Bruce has a comment. These days, tax is bigger than we earn, even if you have records. And Sumi did another question, meaning I can recover deductions from FRIS after supplying a VAT. Yes, you should visit URA for guidance, and also if you can find a tax consultant next to you, sometimes they do actually explain some of these things in a simple manner, in case the URA is unable to do that for you clearly. So thank you everybody for today. Any questions? Any other questions?